Hello, this is Stephen Whitfield, drilling contractor here from the floor of the 2022 Offshore Technology Conference. With me right now is Guillermo Sierra, VP of Strategic Initiatives, Energy Transition at Nabors, and we're going to be speaking about geothermal today. Mr. Sierra gave a well-attended presentation here at the conference on geothermal initiatives and kind of where we're going on this. So Guillermo, thanks again for speaking with me.
Of course. Thank you so much, Stephen, for having me here.
In your presentation, you talked about geothermal 2.0 and how we're kind of in this paradigm shift with geothermal. Now, I know that some of our viewers might not even know that we're in a geothermal 1.0, right? So can you explain to us what this geothermal 2.0 is and what's enabling it?
Yeah, so there's different technologies that are helping us gather this energy potentially more efficiently or effectively than we've done in the past. Supercritical heat or very, very, very hot water, if you will, creates a state of water that's not really liquid, it's not really like gas, but it allows that water or that liquid or that product to effectively hold materially more energy than any other temperature of that same liquid would have held, right? So you end up enabling not only the ability to get more effectively the heat out and turn it into electricity, but you're able to remove the geographical constraints that geothermal energy has already had, right? People develop geothermal energy around the areas that is already hot, like the geysers, the ring of fire around volcanoes. And the goal is a world where you can do this anywhere. So that's the hope, that's the idea. That's what we're trying to kind of unlock, if that makes sense to you.
So Nabors has invested a lot in geothermal. You've invested in companies, you've invested in technologies, and you're kind of building this ecosystem of geothermal in a time when this is all still very nascent. So what does Nabors look at when you're looking at potential investments in geothermal?
We believe the companies that we've invested in create, to your point, an ecosystem. We believe in creating complementarities around the companies that we've invested in. If you look at each one of the companies that we've spent money, capital, and are part of our group, if you will, each one has what we believe to be a different part of the puzzle. One of them develops geothermal systems, subsurface and above surface, full integrated system that will be able to turn water into steam, utility scale power generation. One of them has a microgrid distributed energy solution, not using water, using CO2. And then two of them, Quace and GA Drilling, focus on how can I change the way we fundamentally drill to crack this nut over time. So we believe that these companies kind of complement each other in a way, and creating an ecosystem within this venture group, if you will, allows them to capture synergies between each other, to talk to each other, to understand what other projects each other are seeing, and we believe it helps in the acceleration of the getting to that point of scaling for each one of these. Additionally, as you can imagine, if each one of them is trying to crack a nut from a different angle, being in the center of it allows us to kind of to funnel resources and help them achieve this by utilizing what we're developing across the platform.
One of the things you talked about in your presentation was access to capital. And it seems to be the big thing with geothermal. You know it, I'm sure Nabors knows it, that's the big thing. When you need access to capital, you gotta make a business case, right? So what is the business case for geothermal?
Well, listen, when it comes to being a little early, that's important, right? Because to some extent, leading sometimes requires sticking your neck out a little bit more than you would have otherwise. We believe that what geothermal provides relative to the alternative when it comes to renewable energy is worth investing in because it is not an intermittent source of power. It's on 24/7, independent of weather conditions, independent of anything. It's just right there and it's on all the time. We believe that not only the power generation, but utilizing geothermal as a storage system could potentially complement and enhance other renewable solutions like solar, like wind. Earth is also a battery. Not only it produces energy, but it's also a battery. So when I think about the business case, I think about how do we create and can we see a world where we're creating electrons at a price that competes with combined cycle, potentially. Definitely a price that has to be competitive relative to other renewables without requiring the developing, the mining, and all the additional complications that come around storage solutions that you need to transform an intermittent source of power with a baseload source of power. We all need electricity all the time. We don't need electricity when the sun is out and when the wind is blowing necessarily, right? And so if you can see a world where you can produce power at less than $30 a megawatt hour, and you don't need to go mine the rest of the planet to do so, and you can do it every day, day in, day out, 24/7, that to me becomes something we should all invest in. Because, like I said in the couple presentations, humans, we get real good at engineering the cost out of something practice over and over and over, right? So if we can come up with a pathway to $30 or less a megawatt hour, you can see us engineering the cost further down until one day, hopefully, you see geothermal power being produced at incredibly competitive cost, transforming existing infrastructure, transforming potentially coal at cost of, $15 a megawatt hour. And when you kind of see a world like that, you're deeply in the money relative to the alternative. Money always flows to the right answer. And we're trying to make sure that we solve all the engineering problems to get these companies to scaling, being the only thing left to do.
So you just said that word, scaling. And that is such a big thing when you talk about the potential of geothermal. I'm sure that a lot of our viewers would want to know, how do drilling contractors help in scaling geothermal? What kind of value does a drilling contract provide? We talked about investment, but even from a technical standpoint, what kind of value does the industry provide?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Listen, we have an incredible understanding of subsurface conditions. It all starts with drilling the hole. I mean, at the end of the day, all of the geothermal ventures, all the startups, and everything that we're doing in the space starts with drilling one hole, right? So integrating their technology with our assets, integrating with the help of our engineers, our software understanding, automation understanding, robotics, integrating all of these systems into our drilling rigs, being able to actually start testing some of these systems. Hey, let's drill one hole and see what happens when we start flowing different temperatures. Hey, let's drill one hole and see how can we start producing energy out of an injector and a producer. Hey, let's see. So all this all of this stuff starts with making the hole. And so we feel that, our expertise is perfectly aligned with what these guys are trying to accomplish. And, for them, as they're trying to scale, like you mentioned capital earlier, drilling is expensive, right? And so partnering with these guys, not only with capital, but in-kind contributions of engineering capacity, talent, assets, drilling capability, drilling time, is what they need to go from where they are today, which is designs and engineers that are proven and modeled and work, to pilot testing programs, right? To getting to a point where with investors in the growth side and infrastructure side can come and touch and see this infrastructure producing electrons, and then devise a roadmap to lower cost engineering, the cost of the development down over time.
Well, Guillermo, thanks again for taking the time to talk with us about a topic that has generated so much interest both within the drilling sector and within the wider oil and gas industry. And it's going to be fascinating to hear, one, what Nabors is doing, and also, two, seeing how this scales up as we move further and further along in the low carbon future. So thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you for having me. Thank you, IDC.
And thank you for visiting Drilling Contractor.